As an adult coming from an extensive background of unrestricted internet access while growing up, I now try to actively seek out newer, more meaningful content as a means of broadening my perspective and staying contemporary. I don't want to see myself fall into the endless loop of mainstream consumption where my interests are dictated for me. However, things become mainstream for a reason. Though our current era of virality is full of desaturated talent and intention that exists solely for virality itself, I must argue otherwise. A lot of wonderful things have been produced in this era, and I want to talk about one of them. Not the show, but the game, The Last of Us. Now, for context, I was Ellie's age when the game was released. I watched all the gameplay I could before I got a console myself, where I then ran through the game over and over and over. I watched as many behind-the-scenes footage and interviews that I could get my hands on. I streamed The Last of Us one night live when it came out. I learned as much as I could about the production house Naughty Dog. I even learned the first few chords of the theme song for the guitar, and I don't have a guitar. I was passionate and with good reason. Now, in comparison to its fast-paced show, The Last of Us slowly segues you into this apocalyptic world. The show doesn't do justice to the 15 times I got torn apart by a bloater or the 20 extra minutes it took to navigate myself through some swampy hotel. Even though I'd like to think so, I'm not the best gamer girly out there. I'm not playing this game on extremo mode from the jump, but in any case, there are times where you struggle so much to progress so little. Ellie and Joel's frustrations become yours, and that's just the nature of narrative-based video games. I don't play horror games or even watch any horror film or TV because, frankly speaking, I don't enjoy shitting myself. My tolerance for jump scares and terror is non-existent, so when time came for Miss Ellie to pave her own way, since Mr. Joel was rendered unconscious, I was shitting bricks just as much as Ellie would be. I'm creeping and crawling, trying not to trigger these clickers around me. My chest tightens, my breasts are shorter, my movements are sharper, hands sweaty mom spaghetti style. These clickers are hideous and disgusting fungus people. In addition, there is so much attention to detail that enhances the gameplay experience, ranging from getting Ellie's throat ripped out by an infected, or fireflies fluttering in the corner of your loading screen, or having to shake your controller to get your flashlight working again, or in-game storefronts having real-life Twitter pages that discontinued activity on Outbreak Day. Now, like any man-made creation, there can be a ton of flaws, and I'm not going to be mentioning any of them. The game balances the weight of its abstractedness by bringing the mundane to life, and this is what I love about video games. When you're reading, you fabricate the textual world to your liking, and what you conjure up through your imagination with assistance from the text is subjective. However, the entirety of the experience remains in your head. Video games transcend the barrier of the TV screen. You're given a world where you are vital to the experience of the story, as the game is rendered entirely useless without any player. Not only are you essential, but the character's accomplishments and frustrations are felt in real life in juxtaposition with your own. It's as much of a mental experience as it is physical, and I'm not going to shy away from the fact that I was introduced to this game in my early teens, which is a big reason as to why it remains as pivotal to me now as it was 10 years ago. I was young, impressionable, and naive to the world, trying to make sense of it within my own means, much like Ellie herself. Subconsciously, a lot of who I am was molded by these characters. Reflecting over my later adult years, I found myself mirroring the resilience that I once observed through them as a child. Story aside, this game opened my eyes to the world of storytelling, its power, and the many forms it could take. Along with making me who I am, my passion for The Last of Us and games alike have morphed my career prospects where, though writing has always been at the forefront of my future, I now look for opportunities within the scope of the video game industry. None of this would have happened if I didn't play The Last of Us. This just goes to show the magnitude that backs storytelling and the actual impact of the video game industry. I'm grateful for having gotten to experience the reception of video games over the last decade or so and getting to observe how that's changed over the years. Before the rise of narrative-based gameplay, video games were often regarded to as promoters of violence and aggression amongst youth, which has proven to be true, but it goes without saying that the constant and overwhelming presence of any negative stimulus will naturally have its consequences. There's been a shift in the academic perception of video games which needs to be appreciated, and that is treating video games as literature. None of this is new, as it is with many games like the Uncharted series, Beyond Two Souls, Red Dead Redemption, Assassin's Creed, etc. I'm saying it like it is, as many people before me have done, but I'm just talking about The Last of Us because I love it. We're talking about an interdisciplinary approach to literature where players are participating in essentially an interactive screenplay, considering how dialogue heavy this game is. The plot is the driving force of this game, with the gameplay itself being its vessel. The Last of Us covers narrative structure to a T. We have a protagonist that emulate an unconventional family dynamic and supporting characters that give insight into the protagonist's lives, all while progressing or enhancing the plot. Throughout the entirety of the game, Ellie and Joel come with and share a lot of grief, fear, abandonment, and betrayal. The cinematic universe of Ellie and Joel is defined by this beautifully decrepit environment where survival is the dictator of all things. We're witnessing a world where everything that we know is applied, though it's applied in a world that we will never know. The paradox of being able to understand these characters, yet not, is the very beauty of science fiction and literature as a whole. Now, the gameplay and its narrative are united through its soundtrack. It's no surprise that the scoring for this game is phenomenal, considering that it was composed by none other than Gustavo Santaolalla. Amongst his many achievements, he's known for composing for a variety of film and TV dating back to 1981. He has a laundry list of accolades from organizations like BAFTA, the Academy Awards, Golden Globes, Grammys, etc. His music is instantly recognizable by its pacing and his feathery, almost ethereal use of a guitar or charango. It goes without saying that he's a living legend. As survival does for Ellie and Joel, Santaolalla's composition dictates the mood for whatever scene you're in. I couldn't ever imagine pairing such a gentle melody to something so morbid. Appropriate instrumentals and composition amplify the influence of film and TV, inevitably evoking and cementing whatever you're feeling in the moment. It's something lyrical songs intrinsically could never achieve because it's an entirely different context. That's why theme songs to your favorite shows like The Office or Bob's Burgers slap the way that they do. Santaolalla's entire soundtrack is a banger, but the greatest and most popular songs from it are the ones played during pivotal moments within the gameplay. He caters his composition to the scene, thus proving the strength of this game's plot and how music amplifies the scene's resonance. The greatest example of this is the end credits, which was executed beautifully. After your laborious hours of hacking away at this game, you're calmly transitioned to a black screen, staring at your own reflection, while a tranquil set of chords plays in the background. Controller still in hand, in anticipation for something more, the title card finally shows up as the soundtrack gradually intensifies. You're left to reflect over the journey that was that game and your feelings now that it's completed. You feel accomplished now that you've finished it, but bittersweet because it's over. You've watched and helped these characters grow, supporting them through inconceivable conflict and witnessing their vulnerabilities and intimacies firsthand, leaving you no choice but to be connected to them. You've sought the story to its last scene, where there is no more Ellie and Joel. You've learned everything you've been allowed to learn, and now you're left to mourn.